Yes, hello everyone. Okay, in this video I'm going to explain the chamfer, what chamfer is doing. You have in the modify tool, in the older version it was combined as a bevel tool, and the new version it's split chamfer and fill. It's the same thing, we just split it to make it easier for people. So I can't explain what they're doing, what chamfers and fill is rounded, this is more kind of like beveled. But I want to show you it a little bit more in detail what this tool is doing. So the idea is I need to have something, let's say an angle over here. So it's always good to see how you can do it manually with surface modeling and then to get a sense of what the tool is doing for you. So in this case, if you can see I have a wireframe on, so you can see there's only very limited details I have. In order for me to make here some details, I need to add some details. So I can go to resolution and add different ways. In this case, I'll actually going to use cube selection to make the cut where I need to make the cut. I can type in exactly the level or use the gizmo. In this case, I don't really care. I type it and make it, let's say 80, make it exact. So if I'm going now to finalize, I have my exact selection on. If we're going to finalize it, this creates a cut. So now I have the details added over here. So if I'm going to make a chamfer of a single edge, for example, I want to round this edge, this is quite simple. If I were going to make this, I'll go now to the move tool and I'm simply going to move this on, and obviously I can make my measurements the exact size, how much I want to move it on, and I can make something like this. This would be quite easy. If I would need to do an entire, let's say all of the top, that would be quite simple. I select, let's say this polygon, and I scale this down, and the same thing, I can enter exact size, but for now, yeah, let me just do something like this. I'll select the X and the Z both, and I'm going to scale this, let's say, to 80. So you can see now I basically beveled all of that. So, but what if I want to select, I want to bevel kind of like just some edges, not all of edges or some random edges. So let me show you an example with a different cube. I take the same thing, when I drag and drop, I get just the basic of it. And I want to show you when I'm going to use the tool, I'll change my selection. Whenever you have a region selection, one of these selections on, and you drag, it will keep selected the other one, so you don't lose the selection. So that's why I have to select it, just a side note. So if you take over here, I'm gonna select, let's say this face, or let's go to an edge selection and just show the example I did over here. So first let me select one edge, and if I want to select one edge to do the same thing I did in the first test over here, and I'm gonna go to my chamfer. What you see over here is I have my intensity, it's kind of the amount I'm pushing it in. So let's preview. And you see basically we got the same thing, but let's actually finalize it to see what this is actually doing. So instead of making the cut like the way I did it, it actually created a cut in this way. So it needs to create a cut, otherwise you can't do it. So, but it's automatically created a cut for you. So let me undo this and take a look now, select a face and select entire face, which is the same idea as selecting all of the 4 edges around. And now let's chamfer this one. Sorry, I'm in the wrong places. Okay, so if you chamfer this one, the same thing, this created this, and in this case, we got the same cut, okay? So far it's relatively simple, it's just a matter of speeding up things. Where it becomes more interesting is when you want to do something more creative. So let's say, for example, I want to chamfer only these 3 edges. So let's take a look. So I'll chamfer this edge, and this edge, and this edge, these 3 edges. Now, if you want to do this manually, you can do it the same way you did before, but you'll have an issue with this corner over here, because if you move this one, and this one, you'll be left with a hole over here. So let me show you. I'll take a look again on the chamfer and show how this is doing. So if I'm going to do the same thing, actually let's make it a round number, like round number is 20. Okay, so let's finalize this and take a look at this. What you have over here is you can see you chamfer this one, this one, this one, but because you did it in such angles, you needed to fill in this part. And this is kind of a new phase that we created. Not just created a cut. These are created a cut and moved them, like the way I did it over here manually. But this is, it just may cut in different directions, different ways, it cuts it automatically. But in this case, it needs to fill in this as well to do this, and this is where this comes in. So let's take a look again, the settings we have on these type of things. I'll undo this. Now if I go again to having the same idea, if I go again to my chamfer, you can see there is a fill settings. There's an option to fill my polygons. So let's preview. Let's say without fill polygons, means it removes everything, it takes only the thing that you created. So obviously we want to have the polygons in this case. I want to fill the edges, which is basically this edges that we just did, or I want to make a hole. In most cases, you'd want to do that. There's some use cases where you create very interesting shapes by reducing the edges. I can show you examples later. and then you want to fill the corner. This is the corner that we created basically. So those are basically the settings that you have over here. You have some more advanced settings, which is you can use a percentage base or exact length. So 20 would be exact length, or it's a percentage base. And this will make a difference if the cube is different sizes. So in this case, it's rectangular. It's the same size, so it doesn't make a difference. But if it's, let's say, longer in one direction than the other direction, you can make it be an exact size. Let's say I make it by 20 in each direction, or you can make it a percentage-wise, which in this case would be, let's say, longer, because if it's longer here, the edge would be longer, or it could be, and this side would be less, maybe this side, I guess, would be less, because this direction is less. So it could be percentage or length. And it's just an added feature. It's an advanced settings. You may or may not need to use that. But those are actually quite interesting, and I'll show some examples later. And actually, let's do it now. Let's show some examples. So if I want to take more advanced shapes, it's mainly where you select an entire object. So I'll take, for example, a sphere. So if I take a sphere, you can actually chamfer or fillet entire objects. In this case, I'll take a chamfer the entire object. Let's preview. 20 may be too much. Yeah, you see the intensity got actually reduced to the maximum, because 20 would be, interfacing. It wouldn't really make sense. So you can see you get all of these things. But now it makes actually sense. If I want to reduce the polygon, look at this. I can create something very nice, and I create only these, and I finalize it. So this is not printable yet because it doesn't have thickness. But if I would go to add thickness now, I can make this into something very nice. So let's say if I'm adding thickness of 3, and now you can see, you get a nice printable object. Look at this, it's a beautiful object. You deleted the faces. So this is basically where this could be done. I'll move on. I see the video is quite long. I'll move on to the next one to explain fillet, which gets even more exciting. It's a similar idea, but it's a little bit more exciting. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll put a link to the next video as well. Thank you.